Model 3234-A-HD2P. This is a heavy-duty pipe end forming machine made for a company called Hammerhead. Look at the end here, there's a backstop to reinforce because of the heavy wall that we're forming. Looking at the 2 palm buttons for the automatic operation. We're looking at a handle there that's for the automatic lubricating unit. And up here is a control box. Okay, down here we're looking at the foot pedal. And this is the foot pedal that activates the automatic lubricating system. Okay, now we'll take a little walk around the machine. As I say, here's the backstop. And it's adjustable for different lengths of pipe. Here we have a threaded shaft that allows us to fine tune for the tube position into the clamp assembly. We're looking at the clamp assembly. You notice that the clamps are 2 diameters in 1 set. Here we're looking at the die itself. Here we're looking at the face of the backstop. And right here we have a rest so that we can adjust it to let the various diameters of the pipe be in line with the clamp assembly, so it doesn't sag in the back. It's adjustable. And here's a front of the adjustable backstop. Here we're looking at the back of the machine. Down here we see the clamp assembly. Here we see 2 proximity switches that control the stroke of the clamp cylinder. We come up here. Here's a cylinder. And this cylinder here is has a chamber for the lubrication system. As we come up here, this is adjustable for the arm. Now here's a proximity switch. On the lubricating arm. As you go up here, there's a lubricating ring that shoots out the oil. Now we're looking at the chamber that houses the lubricating oil. It's a heavy oil, so if you look at here, this is actually a cylinder. Up in the top there, you see the arm of the piston, and we apply air to it so that we can keep constant pressure to keep the chamber filled up here on the cylinder. Here's the reservoir. Here's a lever that we can turn the oil on or off to the pump. Here's the level of oil in the reservoir. Here we do the filling. Here we're looking at the valves. There's 3 solenoid valves here. One for the oil lubricator, one for the forming cylinder, and one for the clamp cylinder. This here is a valve for setting the pressure in the system. If we come down here, we're looking at a piston pump. Pressures are also established here. There we see the rotation of the pump. Here we see a gauge that gives us the pressure that we're using on the system itself. Here we're looking at this hydraulic line here that goes up to the tank, and that's a purge line. It's to keep the pump purged with oil. When you first start it, you have to make sure that this oil is into the pump to start distribution throughout the system. We're looking at the control box, and the buttons that are on this here is the red one is the emergency stop. The green on the left is a power on. The switch on the left you see up here for the clamp up and down. These are for manual operations. And over here we see for the form cylinder forward and reverse. Now to operate these switches in manual, you must have one hand on the pound button, the other hand on the switch. You cannot operate it with a hand free. Up here, this is where we set the timers. There's two timers on this machine. One timer is for the oiler and the other timer is for the clamp cylinder or the forming cylinder. All of this is explained in the service manual. Now here we're looking at the starter box. This can be, we have this wired with a cord down there, or it could be hardwired. Here we're looking at a transformer where we have to reduce the power down to operate the PLC. Here we're looking at the air valve where the air goes into the system, and here we're looking at the lubricating cylinder. Again, that sends oil down to this cylinder, which has. Now we're looking at a top view of the forming section of the machine. Down at the bottom here, we've got a die rest. Because the dies are pretty heavy, so there's some bearings on there so that they can rest them on the bearings, and then we're able to screw them onto the cylinder. Over here on the right here, there's 3 proximity switches, because in certain tubes they do it in 2 cycles. So you can form a part with 2 cycles or 1 cycle. Over here we're looking at the lubrication arm, and here's the proximity switch in the back here. That switch has to be made in order to do any forming at all. Now without a tube, we're going to go through a forming cycle. And we're going to make a forming cycle now. He hits the 2 palm buttons and he holds them down. Now the clamp is going to close. It's gripping the pipe. Now the first cycle he comes and he'll do the cycle for the lubrication. Now he's coming in and making the first cycle on the form. Hits a mid-prox, comes back and stops. Now he'll come and lubricate again, and then he'll do the last cycle. It's going to bypass the mid-prox, go to the end prox, stop. It'll retract to the starting prox. The clamp is not going to open, and you remove the part. Job done. Okay, now we're going to make a form, and we're going to make it with just 2 stages. And we don't have the lubricator hooked up right now, but he'll go through the cycle. Okay, Rod, start. The clamp closes and grips the tube. He brings the oiler down, hits the foot pedal. Now he'll make the form. Remember, this is heavy wall pipe. Stops. Comes back. Stops. Clamp opens up. There's a heavy wall formed in 1 stroke. Another product designed and built by AMH.